12:05 in the afternoon. Always great to hear that music because that means it's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. A little bit of music of your life, Kerry, Fink, but we always enjoy that. And great music indeed, and great music to get the show going. And the big event is finally taking place this Saturday night under the lights, as we used to say.
You are so right, John Harper. Kerry Fink here on 90.3 FM WEJF. Welcome to our Wednesday lunchtime gathering. Right here every week, it's Helping Seniors Radio on behalf of our president and founder, Joe Steckler, our entire team, Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, Marty, everybody that's connected with Helping Seniors, welcome. We always have a great time here. Welcome to the listeners online, also at WEJF.net, and also those of you who will catch this as a podcast later, but hopefully not too much later, because we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about the big event that John was talking about as we open the show. John, I was listening with great attention to the weather forecast. Now, the event is indoors, so whether it was rain or shine, it wouldn't really make a difference. Right. But there's always a huge crowd. There was like 2,500 folks there last year. And as you know, everybody gathers outside, and it sounds like the weather is going to be perfect because the doors will open at 6, but every year we've been there.
The weather, Kerry, is going to be great. Virtually no chance of rain on Saturday night. Nice, mild temperatures. And it's going to be an exciting night. Really looking forward to it. The big event that I think Brevard County looks forward to, anticipating every year.
Yeah, I was sending out some emails today, and I was saying it's hard to imagine this is actually the 6th annual Helping Seniors car raffle. And so we have some of the greatest people on the planet in here in the radio with us today. So let's add them into the conversation. Let me introduce longtime friend, board member of the Helping Seniors organization, who has a company that everybody gets our names confused with, but it is Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors of Brevard.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Thank you for joining us today. And this is so exciting because you've been part of every single one of these car raffles. You've seen it keep growing year after year.
I have, and I have watched it grow. It's amazing from where we started in the very beginning, the first raffle, and we did the best we could, but boy, we've learned every year. And now just to see where it has gone is amazing.
And I keep thinking about something Joe Steckler, our president founder, told me. He said, Kerry, I started this with AJ back in 96 when he was doing Brevard Alzheimer's and getting all that off the ground and the Joe's Clubs and all that. And so Joe goes, I've been doing car raffles going back to the last century. So we're getting a little better. But let me introduce our other great friend here. You've met a lot of her excellent attorneys who are in her office. You've met Tyler Runte, you've met Katie Jackson Stoltz from her office because they've been guests with us on the radio. But I think it has been quite a while, if this may not be the first, that we actually have Amy Van Fossen from the law office of Amy Van Fossen here. Yay! How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. And this is the first time.
Yes, what I was thinking. But you're not a stranger to the Helping Seniors car raffle either, because you've been there with us, I think, from the beginning too.
I've been there quite a while. I can't remember how many times, but I'll be there Saturday.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Jennifer, describe what happens. Well, first of all, a disclaimer. So unabashedly, Jennifer is Team Dodge. So remember how this shtick works. When you get your ticket, and it is not too late for you to get a ticket. In fact, you could go by Amy's office. You could go by Jennifer's office. You guys have tickets. You could call Nancy at 321-473-7770. You could also go online at helpingseniors.carraffle.com and get your tickets. The important thing is get your tickets. So you get one of 4 cars. They all come from AJ Hires, Boniface Hires family of great car dealerships. You could take a Dodge Challenger.
Of course you would.
You could take a Chevrolet Camaro. We're going to get more into that in just a moment. You could choose a Kia Sportage, or you could choose a Mazda Miata convertible. It's your choice when we pull your ticket on Saturday night. So Jennifer, years ago when this all kind of got started, there became this this friendly rivalry. It's kind of like a football thing, right? Ashley Caswell from Hibiscus Court said, I choose the Chevy. and I think that's the greatest car in the world. And you said, no, it's all about the Dodge. And from then on, it's just been on.
It has been. It's you're right. It started as kind of just I like this car, I like that car, but it's become its own thing now. Yeah, I like that you had to do a disclaimer before I got to speak.
But
I would have behaved.
so this is a chance for us to ask Amy, if you were to win, do you have a car in this race?
I need the convertible.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
You know,
the Miata.
so last year, our winner, David Odahowski from Orlando, he chose the Kia Sportage. So he was kind of practical and stylish. The year before, Troy Darling from Indy Atlantic, he won a Chevrolet Camaro. Now, remember, we're a charity, so we give the base car. Then anything you want to do from there, you can upgrade at your own will. So that's exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted the Chevrolet Camaro convertible. So that's what he took. The year before that, Karen Hoodless, who actually made a guest appearance on this year's Dodge versus Chevy Challenge and has promised to bring out her 2019 Dodge Challenger that she won in that Helping Seniors car raffle. She's actually going to bring that out to the museum.
And she upgraded the engine on that to a Hemi, which was awesome.
It's a pretty fast car. So, Amy, you would say convertible. Does it matter which one? Because
I pick colors by the color. I don't really care about the rest. So, I'm not a car person.
Okay.
I'll take whatever y'all think I should have.
Well, we are going to have a serious conversation as we go along on today's radio show, and our topic is going to be about making your aging plan. We have two experts in the house that we're going to talk about that, because I really our theme this year for Helping Seniors of Brevard has been getting your ducks in a row, which is kind of a fun way to coin a phrase that Joe has always talked about called making your own aging plan. So we all know this. We had a hurricane scare on this coast. It really got them bad on the West Coast, but we understand what a hurricane warning is. You want to have a hurricane plan so you don't get caught unprepared. Doesn't mean you want the hurricane. In fact, you prefer the opposite, but you're going to be prepared. And that's one of the things that Joe has always talked about, making an aging plan. And Amy, I know that's what your law office specializes in. You help families, seniors, organize things so it doesn't shock the family, that there's a plan if something goes awry or comes in from the unforeseen side. And more importantly, that the person's wishes are taken care of as opposed to the government's plan for those wishes.
Well, exactly. And a lot of times they don't want to think about the plan, or their plan isn't realistic. Everyone wants to stay home. Everyone wants to age in place. Everyone wants to pass away in their home, but it can be very expensive. And I had a client in last week, and she did not have the resources for that plan to work. So I said, let's start talking about plan B. What's plan C? What's plan D? Because a lot of times, whatever plan you wanted, it's just not feasible.
Yeah, and I know you guys in particular, you specialize a lot in helping families navigate this thing called Medicaid planning and VA planning. You've done seminars for really as long as I've been connected that I can remember from Helping Seniors, that you educate families, and there's a lot of pitfalls and things. And if you don't know about things like look back periods and things like that, you may think you're setting yourself up, but you could actually be setting yourself up for trouble.
Right. A lot of people, I say, step on a landmine. They give all of their money away, and then they think they're going to get Medicaid or VA the next day, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
That's one of the big pitfalls, gifting money or not having the proper legal documents in place. So that's another big pitfall. So we see lots of stuff. We do a seminar every week on either Medicaid or VA or estate planning, and one of the slides says, "What is your plan?"
Right.
It's always, what is the family plan? Sometimes it's not going back to the daughter's house back north. Maybe parents don't want to go back north. Maybe the kids are just super busy with their own children and don't have time for mom to move back into their home. So there's lots of wonderful companies in town that can help you age in place, but you're going to have to pay for some of that stuff.
Yeah, it's not simple, and if you fail to plan ahead, you really could find yourself not only in the middle of a stressful time just because everything is going on, but then you're totally unprepared to try to make some sort of intelligent decisions in the middle of all that stress. Mm-hmm. Jennifer Barton, Seniors Helping Seniors. I know Joe has talked, when we talk about how you make an aging plan, he always talks about a thing that he calls elements of care, which is like applying the right tool at the right time in the aging process. And I remember going back to the years when Joe would host the program and you guys would talk together, and he would talk to you about the fact that he always viewed what you guys do as really that opening step in an aging plan. You're getting some help now coming in the house. So it's kind of like the first step to make sure that all that's moving in the right direction. And that's the kind of thing that you guys do at Seniors Helping Seniors.
Correct, it is. As you kind of look at that ladder of care, we're the very first rung. So we're often the first people in, the first time somebody's had care in the home. And we're really good at that because we really do hire seniors to come out and help seniors. So it's someone a little more comfortable coming in. They're very compassionate. They understand that this is weird, that they're having somebody in their home for the very first time. So we try to make it as comfortable as possible for them. So one of the things that we do with our clients, since a lot of times we are the first one in, is exactly what Amy just talked about, is making sure that they do have a plan.
Yeah.
We're asking the questions, do they have power of attorney? We're not going to do anything with that, but we know that that's really important and it needs to happen. So having conversations, because having that plan in place is as you both know, you're making great decisions looking forward instead of making a very quick, hasty decision in a very stressful situation. So it is so important. And we love to help people stay at home. Because we are that first rung of the ladder, our minimums are typically lower than an average home care company, and we charge a little bit less than the average home care company. So we can kind of keep people at home a little more cheaply than if they need to go up the ladder of care. So we're hopefully allowing them to stretch those home care dollars or those, the care dollars a little bit longer and a little bit further by doing what we do as a homemaker companion with Seniors Helping Seniors.
Well, and there's so many areas that counts for. I mean, one of the things, our theme this month, and we're going to talk as the show keeps going, we're talking about the car raffle, but actually our theme this month, when we talked about the aging plan, this year we studied a lot of areas. We began with the legal question, like, do you have the right paperwork? And we're going to talk more in this program about why that's important. And I'm sure, Amy, you could relate horror story after horror story that have come into your office and you've had to try to be almost like an emergency room doctor and make something work out of a very difficult situation when over and over, everybody in your office says the same thing. Let's get you in here ahead of time. It's going to be less expensive. It's going to be less stressful. We can get you set up and you won't have to be worried about all this stuff.
Well, exactly. We love proactive planning, and proactive planning is a lot cheaper than crisis planning.
Yeah.
And so if you call me and mom's already been in a nursing home for 90 days and running out of Medicare days, we're in a crisis.
Yeah.
How are we going to pay it? It's, 12 to 15 grand a month to go into a nursing home in Brevard County.
Wow. Yeah, it is incredible. So we began there. We talked about financial questions. And so you go, well, what about finances? Well, that has to do with questions like, when do you start your Social Security benefits? How do you organize what you're going to do with your home if you decide whether you're going to stay there or move to downsize or do something else? We talked about living safely at home. What are the things? If your choice is I want to age safely at home, what do you need to think about for that? We've talked about, well, what if you are open to downsizing? Do you know all the great options that are available here in Brevard County? We have, I think, I've lost count, but I think it was like over 150 different assisted living options that could be open to you at all different kind of levels, from luxury like you're living on a cruise ship to small group homes so it feels just like home. I mean, there's so many choices. And then from there, we talked about medical, so you got to understand all the things that you might run into medically and make sure you have a good plan for that. We've talked about Medicare, which is the way that most of our medical bills get paid when we're seniors. And then this month, we're tackling transportation. So that means, A, you should buy your Helping Seniors car raffle ticket, he said. But if you're in a situation where maybe it's not practical for you to drive, do you have some alternatives? And so actually Monday, October 31st, 10:30 a.m., on the last month, normally I'd say the last month because it's going to change in November and December because of the holidays, but normally we meet on the last Monday of each month at Zahn Beachside in their Nautilus Ballroom, and we have something called the Senior Resource Center of Brevard Community Information Series. It's a free 55-minute gathering where somebody who really knows their stuff cold is going to share some tips that help you on the aging plan. And on Monday, actually, Rachel McLean from your office, Amy Van Fossen, is going to be there and talk to us about transportation because she's the director of case management there.
Exactly.
And helps families work through all those kind of questions.
Absolutely, and Rachel's amazing. She helps in all different areas. She gave a eulogy yesterday at a funeral as well. It was a beautiful moment. But yeah, there's so many issues with aging, and back in the day, you just grandma moved in with you, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
And now it's so much more complicated, and we use wonderful companies like Jennifer's with our clients. But there's all kinds of ways to age in place, again, if that is the goal, or assisted living. We can help with that too.
Yeah, and I think taking the time now to get educated on this just makes you a wise person. And because, I think what happens so often for us, and you guys could really speak to this, COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench in everything, but was also a wake-up call for a lot of us, right? I know, Jennifer, I remember hearing that you guys were suddenly getting a lot of calls from adult children who were out of state saying, like, well, normally I come down and see mom or dad, but I can't travel right now because of COVID. Are they okay?
Right. That happened quite a bit, especially kids up in the Northeast where they were flying down every other month, and now all of a sudden they couldn't fly out. And they didn't want to, especially back in the beginning before we knew what we were really dealing with, didn't want to take the chance of getting on an airplane and bringing something to mom or dad. So having us go in and being able to see, put eyes on and communicate with the family, mom's doing great, provide a little extra socialization, maybe do the grocery shopping for them during that time period so that we could help out and give the family peace of mind.
And you guys really, there's so many areas you help with. I mean, we've had this conversation before. You guys help with meal planning and nutrition and things like that, because you have an ability to not only get to the grocery store, help the people get the things that they need, but also to make sure they're following a little bit according to what, if the doctor said you're supposed to be on a Mediterranean diet, my goodness, maybe we could be.
Yes, we. In fact, I was with a client last night, and she's on a low potassium diet, which was great because I'm familiar with that because of my father. So we were able to kind of talk through that, and so our caregiver will know exactly what she can and can't do, or what quantities she can have, so that we're making things that she likes, but also making sure that we are taking care of that meal plan, the proper nutrition that she needs.
Right, and then you were also able to help, like we were talking about transportation. That's one of the things you guys are able to do, right?
And that is a big need here in Brevard County. Transportation, I know for the helping seniors, that's one of the number one
calls that Nancy gets,
every month. So with us, our minimum is 2 hours once a week. So we're often in just once a week to take someone to the grocery store. We'll stop by the pharmacy, any other errands that they have. And that takes care of the needed transportation, and we can add as needed transportations to those. But often that's our kind of first entry into a senior's home is they need the transportation. We're just out once a week. The Publix ads come out on Wednesday, so we're there on Thursday, and we take them for their trip.
Well, and I was thinking what's actually cool about this too is just the fact that you're getting mom or dad used to having somebody coming in the home and helping. It's not really that intrusive, but then they won't, maybe be quite as resistant later on if they need a little more help.
Exactly. That's the hope. We're coming in maybe once a week, then twice a week. And by the time that person really needs the hands-on care, they're at least used to having someone in the house. So when they do need the hands-on care, so they're needing a little help getting maybe up out of a chair or getting dressed or needing some showering, we pass them on to a company that can do those types of services. And hopefully now they are used to having someone in the house. So it's not as big of a transition. It's not as big of a deal for someone to be able to come in and provide those services for them.
Yeah, that goes right back to what Joe talks about, getting the right element of care at the right time. So when you need more, you're already sort of set for that next step. But you also do something, I think, called electronic caregiver.
Yes.
Talk about that for just a second, because I think that's a neat part of the equation too.
And I love that. And I was just over at a independent living facility yesterday, and they're really independent, and they get out and they walk a lot. They walk all over to different restaurants. And when they're in the building, there's some safety features, but when they're out of the building, there's nothing there. So the electronic caregiver would be perfect for them because they can walk wherever and they're covered, they're protected. So it's a help I've fallen on, I can't get up button. It's a safety alert, but what's really nice about it is it goes wherever they go. So if we really try to keep our our seniors independent and active as much as possible. So if they are out walking the neighborhood, they're taking a hike, they're going to Walmart on their own, and they fall in Walmart parking lot, all they have to do is press the button. And someone will respond. So that's the part of this safety alert system that I really, really like, is it moves with them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then I guess maybe the last point that I want to bring up is that you guys are a great employer of seniors here in the county.
Absolutely. We were just talking about that off the air. We love to hire compassionate, wonderful seniors who would like a part-time job that they really feel good about. Mm-hmm. It is part-time. We really do hire seniors, so we know that sometimes they want to go up north and see grandkids, and we can work around that. But it really makes a big difference for our clients because it's someone a little closer in age coming in, very compassionate, gets it. So the clients are really happy. So we love to hire, like I said, people who have retired, fooled around for a couple of years, and are looking for something that they can feel really, really good about, and then they don't mind getting paid.
Yeah. So Jennifer, with Seniors Helping Seniors of Brevard, if somebody wants to reach your office on any of the above kind of things, how do they get a hold of you?
We can be reached at 321-722-2999. And of course, we're online and Facebook and all that good stuff too.
No, it's good. And, and again, before we get to our mid-show break, because we're going to spend the second half of the show, we're really going to dive into this whole thing about the aging plan that we started talking about with Amy, because this is so critical. I mean, we're talking about things that when you make a mistake here, Amy, we're talking about not hundreds of dollars. We're talking about maybe tens of thousands of dollars if you don't get this right. So you're going to want to be sure that you're here. But meanwhile, Amy, you have so many good resources online. You talk about the weekly seminars. If somebody wants to get in touch with the law office, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, our phone number is 321-345-5945. We are also online and on Facebook. It's amybvanfossen.com.
Yeah.
And we have a pretty active Facebook page as well.
Yeah, and this is just me, but I have to say it is like the nicest office. You talk to everybody there; they're not only professional and kind, but they're kind and just helpful too. So what an interesting combination. We're going to have a lot more of that conversation on the second half of the break. But as we go to the break, just want to say, get your raffle tickets. You're not going to hear this next week because it's going to be too late. So you got to get them today because Saturday somebody's getting a new car.
Go Team Dodge.
That would have been. So I heard Dodge, I heard convertible, and I'm hearing get your tickets, helpingseniors.carraffle.com, or call Nancy, bug her. Like she's already getting inundated. I got to tell you about the number of calls because we see them come in. Joe and I get like this report that shows us she's getting flooded with calls, but that's okay. I told her it's like this is the busy week. 321-473-7770. And make sure you stick around for second half of Helping Seniors Radio. We got so much more good to talk about.
It's 12:32 in the afternoon as we continue with the Wednesday edition of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's get back to the show and reintroduce to you the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the host of our show, heard every Wednesday, none other than Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry. And, of course, the big car raffle this coming Saturday night. It's getting awfully close, awfully exciting, and people are really buzzing about this.
Yeah, you said it exactly right, John Harper. And if you hear that muscle car roar kind of fading in the distance, that would be Jennifer Barton, who had to take off mid-show. I think she was trying to get one more run of that Dodge Challenger in before somebody picks a new car on Saturday evening at the American Muscle Car Museum. So again, everything we've been talking about all year, this is our 6th annual Helping Seniors car raffle, and you get to pick which car you want to take home when you win Saturday night. So that could be your 2022 Dodge Challenger, as Jennifer Barton always talks about being the number one fan of. It could be the Chevrolet Camaro, which Ashley Caswell of Team Camaro always talks about. It could be that spiffy Mazda Miata convertible. There's that key word, Amy Van Fossen.
I want the convertible.
The convertible. Or the stylish and practical Kia Sportage. But you pick when you win on Saturday. But you have to have a ticket to be in it to win it. And your ticket actually does 3 things. Number 1, you could win a car. somebody's going to get a car. It might as well be you. Number two, it's a great night at the museum. People say, do I have to be there? No, the answer is we pull the winning ticket, no shenanigans. It's right there in front of God and everybody. We broadcast it out on Facebook Live. Mark Pylock, who owns the American Muscle Car Museum, his lovely wife, Tatiana, is going to reach in that basket Saturday night, pull out a ticket. That ticket is the winner. Mark will read it out. And if that person's there, we'll congratulate them. If they're not there, we'll try to call them on the phone. If we have to reach them later, that's what will happen. Somebody gets a car. But your ticket does include a night at the museum, so you might as well be there. Mark always puts on an amazing time there. Beer, wine, soda is there. It's all included. The sandwiches and stuff that they put out there is terrific. And most importantly is that car collection. Amy, you have been in there. It's like 400 cars in there.
I was amazed that was in Brevard County.
Yeah.
And I think the coolest cars were the Daytona 500 cars.
The pace cars.
The pace cars,
yeah.
yeah. Those were amazing. And seeing how they changed over the years as well was fun. I saw the one that the year I was born. I was excited. It looked really old. Really old.
Well, Mark, what I've learned is every year we go back, he keeps adding cars, and there is a story. It's not like it's just, I just got this car because I needed another car here. When you talk to Ed Diedick, who's the operations manager, or Andrew Mackey, who's the events coordinator, there is a story. He has a strategy why that car is in there. It's won a certain number of awards, and they're all like showroom new. They have like 8 miles or something. It's unbelievable. So normally, as you know, Amy, because you guys are so community invited, get involved in a lot of community events through the law office of Amy Van Fossen. Usually they're high-end events. It's like black tie. You have to pay $250 to go there and things like that. And Mark, years ago, he said, I really want to help seniors and do something good, so let's just make it. If they have the ticket, they can come on in and enjoy the museum. So literally, your $25 ticket is admit one to a museum that you otherwise really can't access normally because it's only open for private charity events. And we've been really blessed that he's allowed us to do that every year since he's opened the museum. So we don't take it for granted, but we are looking forward to it. And the third thing you do is you help our charity go. Joe Steckler, our president and founder, set this up after successfully retiring from Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation. He got all those Joe's clubs going. And he said, Kerry, there's more work that we need to do for seniors. Not the only issue that seniors face is related to memory. There's so many other things that they need to know. And Amy, as we keep going in this, I keep learning that education is not only important for the senior, but actually for maybe the people who love the senior. It could be the adult children. It could be the spouse of a senior. And there's all these things that we don't know until we get there. And that's why supporting helping seniors is so important. So let me just close that out by saying, you get your tickets one of a couple of different ways. You could go by the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen. You guys are right there at the entry point to downtown. You've got that beautiful building with that mural on it. And it's a 211. Am I saying that right? 211
East New Haven.
East New Haven. And you guys have got tickets in the office. You can go by Amy's office, get tickets. You can get them by calling Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director. And you can reach her at 321-473-7770. And you can also get them safely and securely online at helpingseniorscarraffle.com. And a lot of people say, can I get tickets on site? The answer is yes. The other thing that you need to be aware of is much like you show up at a popular theme park on a popular day, that means a big line. So if you get your tickets, you can kind of move through that process early and ahead of the crowd and enjoy more time in the museum because you need that time in the museum to enjoy those cars. So with that, Helping Seniors Car Raffle is Saturday. This Saturday, somebody has asked, said, this is the Saturday before Halloween. And I said, well, if you want to dress Halloween appropriately, you can do that. No, but a lot of people say, do I have to wear a tux or something? No, this is like business casual. Everybody just be comfortable and enjoy a great night at the museum. HelpingSeniorsCarRaffle.com. And so this month, our theme, as we keep working on this idea of, helping you get your ducks in a row, as Joe Steckler calls it, getting your aging plan together. This month's theme has been Let's Talk Transportation. And again, Monday the 31st at Zon Beachside from 10:30 to 11:30, Rachel McLean, who is from your office, she's your director of case management. She's going to be talking about options for transportation. And, sometimes that sounds easier than it actually is, because if you don't have access to your car, or maybe the doctor says you shouldn't be driving or something like that, and you need help now to get to grocery stores, figure out doctor's appointments and different things, that can be a pretty important part of the equation. So she's going to be talking to us about that. You can RSVP through Nancy Deerdorf, 321-473-7770. And I'm also excited to announce that Amy Van Fossen, you, Amy, will be there with us on the 14th of November. We're just moving our seminar up because obviously we didn't want to get it confused with Thanksgiving holiday time. So on the 14th of November, you're actually going to be talking about the topic we're going to spend the rest of the show about, which is kind of putting your whole aging plan together. Right. And so I kind of want to preface this part of the conversation by saying, you know, I think you've taught me along the way, there's like, I think it's 5 different documents that you say are kind of like the bedrock that every person, not only seniors, but every person should be thinking about. Talk a little bit about why that's so important.
Well, there's 5 primary documents that we do on a regular basis. And the number 1 document is the durable power of attorney. And I talk about it, and I talk about it, and I talk about it, and people will not listen sometimes. And so if you don't have a power of attorney, you're looking at potentially guardianship, which is incredibly expensive in Brevard County. They start at like maybe $7,500 to $10,000. So if you can avoid guardianship by having one legal document in place, we highly recommend that document. They're not all written the same as well. So there's a lot of great attorneys in Brevard County, but they're not elder law attorneys. And because I practice elder law, my power of attorney has different stuff in it than, let's say, a bankruptcy attorney or a criminal attorney. Ours are based on different techniques that we use when we're doing Medicaid planning or VA planning. 3 of the 4 attorneys in my office are VA accredited.
Wow.
So we're trying to get the 4th one to get accredited as well. But again, the power of attorney allows us to open the door to look at public benefits later. So if mom needed to go into an assisted living or a memory care unit or needed to hire somebody even in their home, it allows us to sort of utilize that power of attorney to move money around. And I like to tell everybody, I never touch your money, but sometimes, we need to let the kids to be able to manage the, the online financial stuff and dealing with banks and that kind of stuff. So we've seen a lot of people come into our office and they had a power of attorney from up north. They've had it from the Air Force Base. Forgive me, JAG officers. They've had it from other estate planning attorneys, but they weren't specific on the elder law piece.
Yeah.
So we did have a client that ended up in guardianship because the power of attorney was missing one sentence.
Oh, dear Lord.
That one sentence cost them about a $10,000 guardianship and about $15,000 in the skilled nursing. Because of one sentence was missing, they lost $25,000. And so again, they're not all written the same. And I see it over and over again. So many people are moving to Brevard County from out of state right now. And it's so weird to me. They say, oh, well, we just left Minnesota and we went to our attorney and had all of our legal documents done, and now we're Florida residents. It's like, well, now we have to redo some of them. Not all of them, but the power of attorney very specifically has to be rewritten. We get asked to speak about what's called advanced directives. So the power of attorney is one of the advanced directives, and the living well healthcare surrogate is the second one. And so sometimes Alzheimer's doctors want us to talk to the caregivers about the importance of these documents. You have to sign them before the person loses capacity.
Right.
If they lose capacity, you're into guardianship. So the power of attorney deals with everything legal and financial for the most part, and it's about 15 pages in our office. And there's all kinds of extras in it called superpowers that Florida has required us to add a few years ago. And then the second one is the living will healthcare surrogate with the HIPAA release. So who's going to make medical decisions for you? You're going to have to trust somebody, right? And if we're not trusting kids, maybe put 2 kids on it so they jointly have to act. Or use a professional company. We also do case management in our office. So we are rent-a-daughters, effectively. We've got over 40 or 50 people that we're taking care of right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, but there's a lot of people that either don't trust their kids to do what they want in their medical plan or their aging plan, or the kids are out of town, or maybe the kids are just super busy and want extra help. So we do a lot of that in the case management stuff. So durable power of attorney, healthcare surrogate are advanced directives. They avoid the guardianship situation if they're written appropriately. And again, I can't stress enough, not all of them are written correctly. And you have to be careful with that.
You know, I keep thinking like this is one of those areas where what you don't know really can hurt you. And the other thing that I think makes this conversation so critical is the moment you find out the document isn't going to work the way you intended is the exact moment there is no opportunity whatsoever for a do-over.
Right.
And so you are just flat stuck. I remember you and I did a TV show. By the way, every show that we talk about, whether it's radio, TV, you've contributed a lot of articles into the Helping Seniors newsletter, which we publish monthly in Senior Scene Magazine. All of those are available for you at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. And I encourage you to go and search these things out because they are great resources. So you can find us there. You can find them on our YouTube channel. You can find them on the Facebook page. But I remember we did a show where you said, should I put my kid on my bank account or on my house title? Because, you know, the natural thing is you think, well, this is who it's going to go to anyway. This is what I'd want to have happen. But then you get into what all the dangers and pitfalls that as normal people who don't understand this legal system, we wouldn't even think to ask these questions.
And as my law firm, the policy in my law firm is to never add a kid's name to a deed, period. Mm-hmm. I mean, we write deeds all day long, and I've seen so many bad stories with that. Mm-hmm. Whether they added a son's name to the deed and the son mortgaged the house to the hilt and did not make a mortgage payment and mom was foreclosed on. Whether mom added debt or the oldest son's to the deed and the son got divorced and the ex-daughter-in-law got 25% of the value of the house and the house had to be sold. So please stop adding kids' names to deeds. There's better ways to do it, as well as it's considered a gift. Whether it's VA or Medicaid, they look at gifting either 3 or 5 years prior to the gift or from prior to when you needed the benefits, so please stop adding names to deeds. Stop adding names to bank accounts. It's kind of the same thing. You know, for about every $8,000 or $9,000 worth of an asset that you add a kid's name or gift it, you're penalized for 1 month of Medicaid.
Wow.
If Medicaid's paying $15,000 a month for your care, please don't do anything to mess that up. So when we're doing Medicaid, the two biggest headaches we have are powers of attorney, durable powers of attorney not written correctly, and gifting.
Yeah, and isn't this a problem? Because every day it seems like I turn on a TV and somebody's like, oh, you can just go online and do your own. And we have attorneys who can help you with this. And yet, you know, I keep thinking to myself, well, number one, do you know the Florida law? Number two, as I've heard you explain, you have invested so much time and energy to make sure that your power of attorney that you provide is so on top of it, because you've talked about even different banks have been very particular about how they accept things. And again, like the problem is, you know, you think you're intelligent. I like things on the internet. I can research it myself, and you think you're being wise, but boy, you could be really setting yourself up for trouble.
Absolutely. And we're in a county with a ton of engineers, so they love to go online.
Yep.
And they know better than anybody. And I had one particular engineer years and years ago, and it because he did his own power of attorney for his parents, it cost him about $150,000. Because somebody ended up in guardianship, we couldn't do Medicaid. It was a painful learning situation for him. But again, the aging thing, back in the day, it was so much easier. And I tell everybody that we specialize in the aging process. And there's no right or wrong answer. As long as you're safe wherever you are, we're okay with that. And so our job is to figure out, what do you want? What are your resources, financial resources? Do you have kids to help or whatever? And then come up with a plan. Because then when you are in a crisis, you fall and break a hip or something, we know what that plan is, and it's so much easier. And the kids are going to be so emotional when you have this medical crisis anyway. They're not going to be thinking completely clear. So it's better to have a plan in place. And when we have more time, we do better planning too at the law firm.
Sure. Well, and it makes a lot of sense. You know, I remember in particular, I had the pleasure of talking with a gentleman who was retired. He'd been head of his own business and things like that. And I had the opportunity to ask him, I said, why did you pick the law firm of Amy Van Fossen to help you write this out? He goes, well, he said, I did a lot of study on the internet before I picked up the phone and called. And he said, but what got me to it was by going through this, I really understood how complex it was. And that, you know, just like when I was in business, I would hire the right attorney for business. I would want to hire the right person who could help make sure this. And then he said, you know, by the time I was said and done, he said, now I've got this book that you guys helped him put together. And he said, when I can pull this book out, he said, I feel a great deal of comfort knowing that I have gotten all this put together in a way that I don't have to worry about, my relatives don't have to worry about, and I can have peace of mind for that.
Well, absolutely. And when we do proactive Medicaid or VA planning, we need to look at all of your bank statements. So then after we do the whole analysis, and maybe it's 2 or 3 years later, maybe you pass away, the kids know exactly where all the money is. They've already been dealing with the banks and things like that. There is no magic button that we can push to find out where your assets are if you pass away.
Right.
Everyone thinks I can push this magic button, and sometimes the older generation have banks all over the place. They left 10 grand back north. They've got 15 different accounts all over, and it's a daunting task for the kids. And when you're trying to plan for Medicaid or VA, every penny counts. If we're 1 penny off on a Medicaid app, you're not going to get the $15,000 a month benefit.
Wow.
So we're constantly driving people crazy because we need the latest bank statements all the time. I used to be a Series 7 stockbroker, so I understand that the financial part of the equation. That's why I do a lot of the Medicaid and the VA in our office. But it's interesting, and a lot of times kids think they can do it online. I have a business coach, and he said, the online legal companies that are out there, and we all know who they are. It's an opportunity for me to make a lot of money because people screw them up so bad.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but because people mess them up so bad, me fixing them costs twice as much than me doing them from the beginning. So whether it's, oh gosh, now we're in probate because they did an online trust and they didn't fund it correctly, there's just all kinds of things that we see.
You hit so many different points. I remember doing a TV show and some radio with Tyler Runte, who's one of the attorneys in your office. And I remember asking her the question because, she's kind of like an expert, a specialist in trust. And I was asking her, I said, but I always thought like trusts are for like rich people, like those really rich people. And she's like, no, if you have a house, if you have a bank account, we need to talk about it because this has to do with getting you make sure that your plan is kind of comprehensive. And if you would think that you could run into where you might need Medicaid planning or VA planning down the road, you want to think about this while there's time to get everything straightened out. And then she was also telling me, she's talks about the times that somebody walks in and they think they've done all their trust stuff correctly, but then she said, but it wasn't funded correctly. So all the work didn't help when it needed to.
Well, exactly. And we started doing a seminar 6 or 7 months ago called Trust Funding. And so I don't care where you bought your trust or where you got the trust, whether I wrote it or somebody else wrote it, you're welcome to come into the free seminar. And basically I tell everybody a trust is a bucket, and we just start filling in the bucket.
Right.
About everything under the sun can go in the bucket except for retirement accounts.
Wow.
So everything. Wow. So you can have a Florida trust with a New York house in it. You can have a Florida trust with a 529 plan, which I have for my grandkids, the college fund. So you can put almost anything in the bucket. And it's not based on age. I have my youngest employee is probably 28. They have a trust.
Wow.
Because that's kind of a perk of coming to work with. We write our own trusts and stuff. So it's not really an age thing. And if you have a trust, you can still spend everything that's in the trust. Yeah. So if I put your house in the trust, you can still sell it and downsize or buy another house or put a timeshare in it. It's, again, they're super flexible, and people come in thinking a trust is so much more difficult than it is.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the thing. You really, if you're hearing this show and you're thinking about the things that Joe has taught about for years about getting that aging planner, like we like to call it, getting your ducks in a row. I think just investing a little bit of your time into learning these things could save you tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, so you don't make a misstep and then found out after the fact that you're in a situation you can't reverse or you can't change around. And so especially, Amy Van Fossen, because you are so good about not only offering up these weekly seminars and things that you guys and your whole team spends a lot of time trying to educate the community. And I always think it's kind of funny because I would go, like, the business person might say, fine, if you mess it up, it's just more money for the law firm because it's just going to take more time and hours to sort it out. But you guys are really so proactive because you don't want to see people be in that situation.
Well, we don't need to add more work. I mean, right. I've seen lawyers kind of not do them correctly, and it's caused a lot of trouble after the fact. Right. So, but it definitely, the pre-planning, it's a lot easier. We've got a lot more time, and the time helps a lot in the stress situation. So, yeah, you're welcome to come to the free seminars. I mean, we do an estate planning seminar all the time if you want to talk more about those 5 documents. And if you come to a free seminar, you get a free consultation with me. Yeah.
So if somebody says, "Hey, I'd like to learn more," how do they reach your office?
So they can either call us at 321-345-5945 or online is amybvanfossen.com.
Yeah, and I really want to say that I think it's fascinating because as you invest your time and you learn about this, first of all, you learn a lot. But then it's also empowering because then you see like how you can apply this to your own situation and maybe avoid some of those pitfalls that otherwise would beset you, and you wouldn't even know that those were pitfalls until you were already in that, right?
Well, we don't have a crystal ball,
Right.
We don't know how medically how things are going to go. So yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking with Amy Van Fossen with the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen. You can find them at amybvanfossen.com. And you have really a team that you really cover like so many different areas. Like we mentioned, Rachel McLean, who is your director of case management, she's going to be speaking at the our Helping Seniors. We call it the Senior Resource Center of Brevard. It's a monthly get-together that we do there at Zon Beachside in the Nautilus Ballroom. Those guys are so kind. They provide coffee and snacks. But the main thing is to get in there and get some information that will help you, as Joe Steckler says, put your aging plan in order. And then you, Amy, are going to be back to talk with us more about aging plan and things like that. And by the way, we record these things for TV, so hopefully you can join us. But even if you're not able to join us, you're going to be able to see these on helpingseniors.brevard.org. You can also access them on our YouTube channel, and you can also see them on our Facebook page, because one of our missions as a nonprofit is we're trying to give you the information so that you can make your best aging plan. And just in our closing moments in the show, I really want to talk about this because you mentioned it earlier, Amy, that so many people are moving to Florida.
Right.
And they think maybe, hey, I did this the right way. I had my attorney up north who I've worked with for years. I trust them. They put everything together, but they're not a Florida attorney.
Exactly. And some of the documents will be okay. Some of them might need a little bit of a minor amendment, but that usually the durable power of attorney is not going to be specific enough.
Yeah.
It might work for minor things like maybe accessing a bank account, but some of these higher end Medicaid planning techniques they don't cover.
Yeah, because I remember you taught me a while back, you said in Florida, our power of attorney form is so specific that if you don't specifically grant a power, it doesn't go, right?
Well, and it looks like the only other state that is that comprehensive is New York.
Wow.
So I will see some of the New York powers of attorney have these things called superpowers, and sometimes they're okay. But generally, if it's a 1 or a 2 page power of attorney, it's not going to work on all these upper end planning techniques that we need to utilize when we're doing Medicaid and VA.
The other thing that keeps happening, so in addition to population moving to Florida, our population just in general is aging. So right. I think the statistic nationally is somebody turns 65 like every 7 or 10 seconds, across the nation. But it also means a lot of people are crossing that 65th year. And as you've already pointed out, that would be late in the game to really start estate planning. But people really should start thinking about this right now, right?
Absolutely. I don't think it's an age. When you turn 18, and in fact, we used to do college planning for people. So when your kid turns 18, we have them sign a new durable power of attorney and a new healthcare surrogate. Because when the kids turn 18, the parents can no longer make those decisions for them. So it's not really an age thing. And it's sometimes people have a baby. So on the younger end, they have new family members, and we're redoing documents or doing guardianship papers for the kids. So it's not really an age thing. I think everybody should have them.
Yeah. So great conversation with elder law attorney Amy B. Van Fossen of the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen. And you guys are right there on East New Haven Avenue. Great pickup point one more time to put in that Helping Seniors car raffle, because it's Saturday, and we will see you out at the American Muscle Car Museum Saturday evening for the 6th annual Helping Seniors car raffle. Get your tickets, helpingseniors.carraffle.com, and we'll see you next week.
Kerry, we have just an extra minute here, and let's for a moment remind people about Saturday night, as you just mentioned, at the American Muscle Car Museum.
Yes.
They can buy tickets at the door.
Yes. So you can get tickets, helpingseniors.carraffle.com. Call Nancy Deerdorf on our senior information helpline, 321-473-7770. Go by Amy Van Fossen's office, pick them up. Go by any Boniface Hires car dealership, and we will have them at the door, John Harper.
All right, sounds good. Look forward to seeing everybody there.
It's a big night. Weather's going to be good. It's going to be fun. We'll see you there.
All right, thanks, Kerry. We appreciate it. And you've been listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard right here on 90.3 FM. You can hear the program every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 o'clock. We hope that you'll tune in again next week for Helping Seniors of Brevard.